From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MVW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. Jeffrey Wright will join us here in a little bit. We'll discuss Ole Miss football. He had Mike Norvell on his show this week. We'll talk about his kind of impressions from that interview also, and we'll touch on his big Sundays. He had Brooks Koepka and Rory McIlroy in a final pairing in Memphis, and he did not do the day the way that I kind of thought he would. So we'll get into that and much more on the podcast, brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. I was in there yesterday. Somebody came in, ordered a daiquiri about 10:15 in the morning, already getting started, ordered a small watermelon. Get that thing for $3.99. You can get one as big as 44 ounces, too, if you so desire. So take advantage of that. I think the guy picked up some ribs, too. Probably one of our listeners. You go in, you get a daiquiri and ribs at like 10:30 in the morning. You're doing something with your day. So all those available are at Oxford Exxon. Again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call the number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. Here's what makes Clark Ford great. It's an easy car buying experience. You get a great product. And then you get a level of service after the sale that you just don't get anyplace else. Campbell's vehicle needs servicing before she leaves in a couple of weeks, needs tires rotated, needs some stuff, and I really don't have time to drive to Amory today, and I don't want her driving to Amory today. They're coming to get it. They're going to service it. They'll get it back to me later today, first thing tomorrow. All good. Just don't know that you get that every place else. You get it at Clark Ford, 662-257-1900. Tell them that you heard about it on the podcast, and you'll be glad you did.
Got a lot of other offerings from MPW Digital this week. A G-Pits is back. It is up online. Another episode of Bourbon South is up earlier this week as well. We looked at did a Van Winkle flight, talked about the bourbon craze, talked about kind of why the Van Winkle brand has become a flagship for a ridiculous secondary market, and the way bourbon is blowing up. So that and more. We got Soft Verbal coming to you. We got a Beer Garden coming to you. So a pretty full week here on the old network as we get into football season, which starts, at least from a August camp standpoint, later today.
Yeah, we taped Soft Verbal last night. It'll be up sometime today. And then I'm taping with Chris Landry later this morning for a Beer Garden. So lots of football. Football.
What's Landry's day-to-day right now?
He does a lot of podcasting, and he does a lot of writing. That dude's an encyclopedia.
Where'd you first know him from?
When I was in Mobile, he was doing a lot of scouting, knew everybody, and was a great kind of source, often sort of in the background on what was going on with coaching searches, assistant coach hirings, stuff like that.
Being in Mobile, did the Senior Bowl kind of help you? Was that sort of a hub for some of that stuff?
Yeah, Senior Bowl helped, and then, you got to remember, I covered LSU a lot, and so I was over there a lot. That year that LSU won the title in 2003, I think I covered 8 or 9 games.
What made that such a draw for Mobile?
LSU.
I know it's not far away, I get that, but still.
It's the closest SEC school to Mobile.
Okay.
I mean, it's less than 3 hours over there.
So there was a draw for that.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of LSU fans in what was then our reading audience.
How's that paper doing now?
It's dead.
Like, completely?
Yeah, it's like part of AL.com now.
They all merged into – it's like the Alabama Media Group or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know that the paper exists any longer.
Well, I mean, surely there is a print circulation in Mobile.
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. I mean, I guess. It's not daily.
We teased this yesterday. You heard it if you listened to our interview with Mike Detillier. He had a couple major thoughts from the show yesterday. One, that he's all about Matt Corral. He saw him for a day at the Manning camp. He likes what he's seen to this point with the Ole Miss freshman quarterback. And then he had a bit of a hot take with Rich Rodriguez, he thinks he is the next head coach at Ole Miss. We hashed this out with Jeffrey here in a little bit. We've already taped that interview, so you'll hear that coming up. And I respect Mike a lot. I get it. I understand the path that would be necessary for that to happen. But I'll be honest, Neil, as a day has passed, I've let it marinate a little more. I've thought about it. I still cannot get there. Because if it goes well, Matt Luke's at a place that he wants to be for a really, really, really long time. And there's no way that's the case then of him replacing it if everything just goes gangbusters. If it goes poorly, I just still can't see, whether it's Keith or somebody else, or whenever this is we're talking about, a still relatively new AD, making that hire, because you're still hiring the coordinator and one of the chief operators off a program that didn't go well enough that the head coach ended up losing his job.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've thought about it a lot over the past day, and I've tried to make myself sort of expand my
I started to almost kind of go back to baseline of zero and go, okay, forget your preconceived notions and start right here. Is this doable? And I just can't get there.
Yeah, I kind of did a best case, worst case thing in my head. I'm good with that. And so best case for Ole Miss, right, is they win a bunch of games this year. And I try to think, okay, what is the scenario where Matt Luke leaves on his own? And it's they win big, and then at some point down the road, and that's the big thing, down the road, underlined, he and an AD, because his agent is Jimmy Sexton, he and an AD or whatever, they can't come to terms on a deal, get a little disgruntled, maybe facilities or stuff, and he's winning really big, and some school swoops in and offers him the moon and the stars, and he goes, I got to take it. That scenario is years down the road, if it happened. So Rich Rodriguez hanging around as the offensive coordinator for years and years in a successful, hyper-successful Ole Miss program, in my opinion, is not realistic. I think he'd get another opportunity to be a head coach, and he'd take it. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is this season goes badly. They get one more year. It doesn't work out. In that scenario, the change that comes is a sweeping change. It's a drain it, to steal from Donald Trump. It's just take it out, start over, fresh. And that Rich Rodriguez doesn't fit in that either. So if I try to find a scenario where Rich Rodriguez is the coach, I mean, the only way that happens in my eyes is like some sort of a scandal with Matt, which is laughable. Or something health related, which would be tragic. I think it would take something like that. I don't think there's a competitive scenario where it makes a lot of sense. And I'm not picking on Mike. Mike's great at what he does. I appreciate him coming on the podcast. We'd love to have him on more regularly, frankly. I just, unless he knows something that I don't know, which is conceivable, I don't think that's as in the cards as he thinks it is.
I thought, and again, I've probably spoken to Rich Rodriguez fewer than 10 times in my life. Pretty sure I have. And the longest time that I've spoken to Rich Rodriguez was that interview we did with him for the podcast that day. So that is my history with Rich Rodriguez. But I oddly know more people than I realize that do know Rich. And I thought, and I've believed this throughout, and I still believe this, I thought he thought Ole Miss was a program with some offensive talent he could utilize, and essentially it was a way to rejuvenate his career, stay in coaching, stay at a high-profile program, score a lot of points, and allow that to rehab him back to the head coach level wherever that next job was. That's the way I took it when he was hired. That's frankly still the way I take it. I don't know if that's 1 year. I don't know if that's 3 years. I don't know what that timeline looks like. But I think he picked Ole Miss as a location to stay in the game, stay at a pretty high level in the game, and get back to being a head coach at the NCAA Division I level. That was my opinion.
I agree completely. And he saw an opportunity. I think he sat down with Matt. Matt is as unassuming and when I say he has no ego, I mean, obviously he has ego, but it's not insane like it is with some coaches.
Relative to SEC head coach.
Thank you. Yes. Relative to Power 5 head coach, his ego's really, really tame. And they kind of hit it off, and he told him, hey, I'll give you what you need. It's your offense. Run it. Not every coach is willing to do that. And I think that's why when people say, is there any scenario where Rodriguez stays a couple of years? Yeah, sure. They have some success this year, and they build on it. Yeah, sure. And, I think Matt is a guy that he's learned a little bit from everyone that he's worked for, and I think he's going to learn some things from the people that are working for him. He's going to learn some Rich Rodriguez offense during the time they have together. I just don't see a scenario, barring something with health, frankly, where that comes to fruition. I just don't. And I don't know that a new AD walks in and, like you said, and says, okay, well, this makes a lot of sense right now. We didn't do very well, but we were good on offense, so let's fire the coach, pay the multi-million-dollar buyout, and promote the offensive coordinator. Logically, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
And again, completely cleared by Arizona. Completely cleared. This is not my point, but also does have some baggage as well.
Yeah.
It's just a piece of it.
If you tell me that Matt Luke is not the coach at Ole Miss in 2020, if you tell me he's not the coach at Ole Miss in 2020, frankly, I'll tell you they went
2-10.
2-10, and it was a bad 2-10, and there was nobody at the games, and it was a financial decision that was just
unavoidable,
made by sheer necessity.
Yeah.
If you tell me he's not the coach in 21, I'll tell you that they just were mediocre at best, and that there was just no real sign of progress, and that attendance was down, and all of those things. I get the people that do the whole 5-7 is unacceptable. You're not being realistic. I'm just going to flat tell you that. You're not being realistic right now. 5-7 is it's not sexy, and it's not happy, and nobody feels great about it. But to call 5-7 this season unacceptable is unrealistic. It is. Now, I think they can do better than that. I've painted a scenario that I think is realistic where they go 7-5. I can paint a very realistic 6-6, but I can get Ole Miss to 5-7 super easy with no stretches, no hyperbole at all, easily, no problem at all. I can do it like this, and so it is to say it's just unacceptable and it must be met with change is unrealistic, and. People that make unrealistic decisions, they usually can't get out of it. I mean, we just got through with the Major League Baseball trade deadline, and a lot of franchises were staring at deadlines yesterday with decisions to make, and a lot of them, frankly, made unrealistic decisions, and it's going to keep them where they are.
Mets.
Yeah. That's Pirates. A lot of, and I don't want to get bogged down into a baseball conversation. We can do it later. But my point is that the teams that make bad decisions, amazingly, are in the position year after year after year after year to make more bad decisions.
Yeah, be the Astros, don't be the Mets.
Yeah, be the Astros, be the Braves. You got to be the teams that look at it like, look at the Diamondbacks yesterday. It's a good deal for them. They said, we're not winning. He's an asset. And we're going to get some pieces, maybe not great pieces, but we're going to get out from under this contract and hit the reset button a little bit. not double down and go, by God, no, you're not. You're not as good as the Dodgers. You're nowhere close. So you gotta accept it. You gotta look at who you are and look in the mirror. And Ole Miss, you in the interview with Jeffrey, you make an analogy about credit cards. I won't ruin it here, but there does come a point in everyone's life, whether it's your health or your financial health or whatever, where you have to look in the mirror and say, okay, here's who we are. How do we fix it? And if the answer is we're going to, by God, double down, that typically doesn't fix it. And so I think that's where Ole Miss is. This is where they are. This is a kind of a 2-year debt-paying window, if you will. And it doesn't mean that it has to be all just struggle, but I don't know. Today, I'll be interested to hear like Matt Luke's messaging and stuff like that. There's a lot of attention given to the two coordinators, and justifiably so. They're really good coaches. They have excellent track records, but I don't sense some sort of a coup going on, and I don't think there's this, by God, if you don't win right now, we're going to promote one of these guys kind of a deal. And then on top of that, again, not to beat it to a pulp, but there is no chancellor, and there's an acting AD who very well might be the AD when it's all said and done, but it's way too early to say that right now.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are with it. I think that's a good place to leave that. But again, appreciate Mike. He brought up a topic that we're happy to discuss yesterday and today. We'll get into a little more about today, a little more football. Obviously, Jeffrey coming up as well. We'll go to him in a second. Go ahead and knock that out. But first, I'll tell you about Master Cuts Lawn and Landscape, premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi. But they offer a lot more as well. They build custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, outdoor living spaces with paver patios, and they do forestry mulching. You can get all that for your dream backyard easier than you think. You can visit them online at gomastercuts.com for a free quote, or get that same free quote at 662-607-7773.
If you and your friends have been telling yourself that you need to get some Blue Delta jeans, but you can't make it to Oxford until football season, the team at Blue Delta Jeans has a solution for you. Give Blue Delta a call or an email. Have them come to you no matter where you are. Organize a group of friends and family together, and Blue Delta Jeans will come to your home and help throw a house pop-up party. Be the host with the most, and Blue Delta will be the life of the party. They bring their stuff and all their new summer collection, some of the really cool stuff that they have. It's a lot of fun. People have a great time. And if you are interested in doing that, you can. For more details or to schedule a time for the team from Blue Delta to come see you, email info at bluedeltajeans.com. Don't miss 1 minute of the action at the Vault this season as Ole Miss football arrives this September. Reserve your season tickets with the new 2019 season ticket pricing for just $299. For more information, visit OleMissTix.com. That's OleMissTix.com. The podcast is brought to you by Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi. They have clients in more than 20 states. What they do is a lot of things, frankly. For the individual, they sit down and they provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning, and much more. For businesses, they will sit down with you. Their 401k advisory services team will sit down with your business. They'll look at your group retirement plans, your 401k plans. They'll give them an analysis. They'll go through a lot of different things and help you out. They'll make it perform in ways that will make you happy, make your employees happy. All of that at Pinnacle Trust, PINN Trust.com. Mention that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the Oxford Exxon podcast. You'll receive 10% off your first year's fees.
Now here's Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey, good morning on this Thursday. Yesterday, you'll appreciate this because you were with us for a while. You know how this works. We taped all the portions of the show other than the interview prior to the interview. So when we come out of it, I don't know what's happened. I'm just talking, whatever. We start talking about the Bachelorette. We have no idea that we have anything to discuss. Then we taped with Mike Detillier yesterday.
Together doing a show.
Yeah, right. Then we tape with Mike Detillier, and he goes, hey, I think Rich Rodriguez is the next head coach at Ole Miss, while we're in the middle of the interview. Well,
Ooh.
yeah, and then we get done, and we go, oh, well, we've already taped the ending, and we didn't talk about that because we didn't know it. So it's like, we'll just talk about it today. It's fine. We'll get another day of content out of this thing. It's all good. And Neal and I both kind of had the interpretation.
Speed of Mike.
Yeah. We've kind of had the interpretation of, well, if Rich Rodriguez is the next coach, that's complicated because that means Matt failed and Rich is on the staff and whatever. But Mike basically thinks they're going to score a ton of points, they're going to give up a ton of points, and at some point there could be a change based off that. What was sort of your thought going in if I told you that? Does that seem realistic at all?
Yes, to me. Now, scoring a ton of points, I don't know what that looks like because, I mean, we've got Alex Givens with a back injury, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So you already had an incredibly thin offensive line that has lost one of its experienced guys. Yeah, I mean, listen, do I think Ole Miss was schemed well last year defensively? No, I'd eyeballs. I'm not a big fan of using my defensive end to cover the number 3 receiver. That's not really how I think football should work. But at the end of the day, they got manhandled all year, not because of scheme. They got manhandled because they weren't very good. And it's largely the same cast of characters. And I think Mike will scheme them better. And I think they could be an improved unit. But, I mean, we were talking honestly, guys. I mean, statistically, it was one of the worst defenses, not in Power 5, in college football. So I don't know. I'm skeptical on if they can go from one of the worst defenses to like a top 60 defense. I think that seems unlikely.
Detillier is too. He thinks they're going to give up just an absolute load of points.
I mean, you guys can tell me you're in the trenches, so you can see more. I do think they have a couple of guys up front that are pretty good, but I think they had a couple of guys up front that were pretty good last year, and they still couldn't stop the run. The linebackers are still the same guys. The secondary, I mean, you get basically like the thing that made it so easy to play Ole Miss last year from an offensive perspective was you could do whatever you did. Like, it wasn't like you had to change you didn't have to scheme for what they did. You could, if you were a running team, you could run it at them. If you were a throwing team, you could throw it on them. Like, a lot of that, I mean, I don't think defense is as much scheme oriented as the other side of the ball is, but this will be, we've talked about this. I think it's the most fascinating aspect of Ole Miss coming into the year. How much does coaching matter? Because I do not think you can reasonably expect a team to upgrade at their offense and defensive coordinators as much as Ole Miss did, given where they were. But I mean, I just don't know, man. On D, I am skeptical at best.
Well, we've talked about it, and I mean, we've made jokes about it, but we're not really trying to joke. We're being serious. They're going to line up better. And I know that sounds so dumb, but Neal and I haven't told the whole story, but I mean, there was an opposing coach that said he had a hard time scouting Ole Miss because they were not lined up in enough spots and followed their responsibilities he didn't know what they were trying to do. So it was hard to scout them because he couldn't figure out what they actually were supposed to be doing during the play. I mean, how big? I mean, obviously that is somewhat of a big deal. How big of a deal could that be? Same players, same all that stuff, but just doing actually the freaking job assignment.
I mean, it can be a big deal, and I mean, I actually know what that guy's talking about. Like, it is somewhat weird because you don't know if are they in a look that's bringing 6 or are they in a look that's bringing 3? Like, and in fairness to him, it seemed like the players didn't know what they were supposed to be doing often. But like, just look at it in terms of this. A lot of defenses speed, like for instance, when a team is a bad tackling team, I guess it's conceivable that they could just be a team that is always out of position. But for the most part, like, we all played enough football to know. Hand up. You know why I was a really bad tackler? I was slow, and I was undersized. And I mean, if they have like this bend but don't break mentality where they keep everything in front of them and they want you to go 15 plays and whatnot, and then maybe college quarterbacks kind of stink and they make a mistake, sure. But I mean, I find it very hard to believe that they're going to go from being one of the worst defenses in all of college football to being even an average defense. Like, I think you can improve at the margins. Like, if you have enough talent, I think you can, maybe move like one standard deviation. So that means with improvement, you would possibly go into the top 100, but that's still going to arguably be the worst defense in the league.
Ole Miss obviously opened up with Memphis. You had Mike Norvell on this week. What's the thoughts? What was that about?
The two things that I thought stood out to me the most is, and I get it, hey, camp's starting Friday, so there could be some enthusiasm because football coaches like when camp starts. They don't like week 3 of camp, but they like when camp starts because they get, as Neil's always pointed out, they don't have to worry as much because they now got the kids for most of the day. So, I don't know. The thing that just really stood out to me is I think he really likes his team. And last year, they had big leads in several games they couldn't hold on to. And I think he wouldn't say it on the air, but I think knowing him well enough, he thinks a lot of it was lack of leadership and being young and inexperienced. And he thinks that this year that has been fixed. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if it's false or not. I do know that yesterday, the thing that stood out to me the most was he seemed very confident about this team.
What's interesting to me about Memphis is that they gave up a lot of points last year to mediocre teams. And I know they've got guys coming back and it's a new scheme and all that stuff, but that's the most interesting thing about that game to me, Ole Miss, Memphis. And Mike Detillier said this yesterday. He said he thinks it comes down to who gets the ball last. And he saw Matt Corral recently. He's giving Matt Corral more credit's not the right word. He's giving him the benefit of the doubt more readily than I'm ready to do it. I'm not saying Matt Corral won't be a superstar. He very well might be. It's his first college start. I'm not ready to go, hey, he's going to go out there and go 40 for 52 and 400 and whatever yards and 6 touchdowns. I'm just not prepared to say he's ready to just go carry a team to a road win in his first college start. I'm unwilling to go there because, frankly, I don't think it's fair to Matt. But what's interesting to me about this game is that both defenses sucked a year ago. They both have new coordinators and stuff, and everybody's confident and all of that. But someone's got to get better on defense to win the game, right?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, they're similar in that a lot of Memphis's problems were, hey, man, like you'd see these just blown assignments where guys are like looking at each other. And it wasn't like blown assignments because you got or you got outmanned. But I think what's most fascinating for me is Memphis is going to be similar to Ole Miss in that new offensive line. You lost your best playmaker. The one difference is Memphis's quarterback. He didn't play great all year, but he played all 13 games.
Yeah, and he was okay.
14 games.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he wasn't. Did I ever see him say, "All right, give me the ball. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go win a football game"? No, we didn't see that last year. But I didn't really see him lose many games either. Like the UCF games weren't his fault. I mean,
he actually played pretty well in those games. Kind of was a really good game manager in those games.
Yeah, like those weren't his fault. Maybe if you want to say the Tulane game was, but I mean, I think the Tulane game was just that classic game where your team went in thinking they were going to win and they got popped in the mouth. And
Willie Fritz is a sneaky good coach too. I mean, there's a lot of people that
they got beat that night.
Yeah, they hear Tulane and they're like, "Oh, it's Tulane." Fritz is pretty good.
No, I think, especially considering, like, you have to try against them now. I mean, that's not really ever been a thing with Tulane football. So I don't know. Like, to me, it's just that it is a weird game in that, and I understand it's week one and screwy things can happen week one, but I really could see the game going. There's about 10 or 15 different results, and I can talk myself into every situation happening. Like, Memphis has a new offensive line for the most part, and Ole Miss, while they may not be the top half of SEC defensive lines, they still got more SEC talent up front, and they cause some problems. And I can see that working out. I don't know. I guess maybe for me the game comes down to Corral, because from what I have watched, and I saw every snap he played last year, I'm certainly not as high on him as perhaps Mike Detillier is.
Take a quick break in our talk with Jeffrey to tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. They're getting local underwriting that understands your market, a leader in condo financing and the float down option. And it's time to tell you that for the last 2 years, the interest rates are about as low as they've been during that period. So maybe it's time to refinance. Maybe it's time to purchase, and Jason can help you with that. That's 662-234-2704 or JLOWE@communitymtg.com.
The podcast is also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. They're the sponsor of my mailbag, which went up yesterday afternoonish. You can go to the Westin Jackson and restore serenity to your soul at Soul Spa. It's the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. They also have Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro. Sip on a creative craft cocktail. Enjoy their curated wine list and an incredible menu brought to you by Chef Caden. All of that at the Westin Jackson in downtown Jackson. It's a Marriott property. We're also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. Here's how this works. John's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows him to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. You give him a call, you give him an email, give him a budget, give him some parameters, and he'll come up with some amazing vacations. I've seen them. A lot of you guys have taken advantage of them. Trips to Alaska, trips to Italy, trips all over Europe. Trips to the Gulf, whatever the case may be, he can take care of you. Just give him some parameters, give him a budget, and he'll give you a list of options that you won't find on your own. And no, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. It's 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. And we're brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissans. If they don't have it, they'll get it quickly. And the service after the sale is remarkable there. They'll take great care of you. Trust me, I've been with them for more than a decade. You'll love them too. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Yeah, look, he's got a really good arm. He can spin it. He can do all of those things. And in just kind of 7-on-7 or just out throwing, he looks impressive. And again, this is not me talking him down at all. But if you told me it took him a little while to truly get acclimated to being the starting quarterback at an SEC program, playing an SEC schedule, learning a new offense, running a new offense, operating a new offense, kind of getting used to progressions, not bailing as soon as there's some pressure and some stuff like that, maintaining your cool, your standard stuff. Look, he's a 19-year-old kid, right? You're asking him.
I'd also add this, not having every throw be to a one-on-one on the outside.
Yeah, there's just a lot there. And I listen, everyone who is around him says this kid's going to be a really good player. So I don't dispute that. My question is he ready to be a really good player on August the 31st? Is he ready to be a really good player on September the 7th? Those are the questions. That's the hard part, and it's just I know it's repetitive. I know people listening to us right now are banging their heads against the wall. But those two games are so big in terms of trend setting, and they're right off the bat. And you're asking a whole lot of Matt Corral when you're like, hey, man, I know you're a redshirt freshman, and this is your first start, followed by your first SEC start. Kind of put the team on your back and go win these games, pal. That's a lot to ask of a kid.
Oh, I most certainly think it is. And like you said, I'm not saying that like I think he's terrible. I'm saying that every time last year that I watched him play, his best throws were outside one-on-one throws, and every time I watched him have to throw it over the middle or throw into traffic, I did not see a guy that was polished.
And Memphis has looked at if you've looked at every one of those snaps, Memphis has broken down every single one of those snaps in its finest detail, and they're going to challenge him in that way. And look, Rich Rodriguez is a really great offensive mind. That's not debatable. He's going to put a plan in place that utilizes what Corral is best at right now. It's going to be a chess match. I just come back to this that it's one of the things we're going to talk to Matt Luke today, and it's going to be asked in 1,000 different ways probably, but do you have enough up front to do the things that you want to do? Do you have enough up front for Rich Rodriguez to kind of spin some of his magic? You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, like I think Scotty Phillips is an SEC running back.
Yeah, proved it last year.
I mean, y'all have to know more about Ely than I do. I think the receivers are going to be good. I mean, they're obviously not going to have the top end talent that they had last year, but I mean, a lot of that top end talent was wasted. So I don't know. I mean, I do somehow. I think this is another complicated factor for me, and see if y'all agree. In general, I think we would say, if all things were equal, Ole Miss would have better talent. But the wild card in all of this is now the peak of the sanctions signing classes. And I'm not sure that necessarily Ole Miss just straight up has better talent. Is that fair?
Yeah, I just don't know enough about Memphis to make that judgment.
I mean, they finished.
It's the year we knew the bill was going to come due. We just don't know how high the credit card bill is.
Right.
It's steep. It's a steep bill. And the truth is it's a steep bill for the next 2 years. And that's the part that – and I understand why fans get frustrated. I understand why fans are like, but he's had time and all this stuff. It is a failure on our part, I guess, to communicate precisely how sanctions impact a program. And they do it not in the actual sanctions. They do it in your inability to win different recruiting battles. And that 17 class wasn't good. The 18 class, I don't think was particularly good. That wasn't deep. That's the right word. And so now what you have is this really young roster. They're going to talk a lot about youth today, and it's legit. It's a really young roster. They're back to full numbers. I think they feel like they have a lot of young talent, but it's young. It's a rebuild. Like Chase just said it. It's the credit cards. You had fun spending all the money on the credit card, and now the bill's coming in, and you're saying, okay, we got to cut back on spending, and we've got to pay this bill off as best we can. And that's never fun, and it's typically kind of painful. And that's why these first couple of games sort of allow them to make if they could win them, to make a kind of a big payment that gives you a little room. It doesn't mean you can start spending like a
yeah, no, it's the grace period or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you paid it down, and so now you can breathe a little bit.
Yeah, you could pay the minimum for a couple of months, just kind of get your breath back, and then make another payment and get it down where you start feeling better about it. But you lose those first couple of games, that's where you couldn't quite pay the minimum, and they're throwing the penalty on top of it, and you have no spending power at all, and you're just stressed out. I don't know if that analogy makes any sense, but it's two huge, huge football games that if they lose them, the perception is going to be so incredibly negative, fairly or not, that it's going to be really difficult to kind of overcome it. That's why my thing with Detillier, I don't see a scenario where his prediction comes to fruition. I don't think it's realistic.
It's kind of changing. I've got about 5 minutes, Jeffrey, but people did want me to ask you, based off this past weekend, did you feel like you were getting like manna from heaven on Sunday morning, Brooks and Rory, or did you know exactly how that was going to play out?
Knew exactly how it was going to play out, so I had to do my part for Team McElroy because I knew, hey, he shot 62. He gained like 6 or 7 shots on the field with his putter. Like, he's not that good of a putter. He's not as bad of a putter as like the reputation is.
He's a bad wedge player.
He is a bad wedge player, and he hit every wedge like inside 10 feet. And so I was like, well, that's not sustainable. And on top of that, Brooks is just better than he is. So since I was there in person with the 62, and I can easily take credit for that 62 as much as Rory can, I had to scramble and figure out, okay, what's my angle here? And I decided for Team McElroy, I was going to lay down, and I was not going to go on Sunday so that way we could put the loss squarely on me. Because you feel like Rory was kind of in a damned if you do, damned if you don't spot there, because let's say he goes on and he fires another 64 or whatever, you know what I mean, has another great day and wins the tournament. Then the narrative's going to be, well, you can only beat him when it doesn't matter. It's a WGC. All the majors, Brooks still owns you. And then when he plays like the way he does, see, Brooks owns you. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it felt like a no-win situation, so I was taking the pressure off my guy, and I chose to watch it from home.
I think Brooks is starting to creep in on McElroy territory for you a little bit. You've 180'd on me with this guy.
Well, here's the problem, though. I'm finding myself liking Brooks. It's not like, and I'm not even like cheating. Like, it's more of a respect than an affinity, if you will. Now, with that being said, when Jenna Sims before the round tried to go and do her attention move, and Brooks just blew past her after giving high fives to everyone that was like around. Okay, now we're talking. Like, we got like that. This, you know, Brooks is starting to wear his hair a little differently, and you know he looks pretty good in that dress. And you know, listen, it's harmless. It's harmless at this point, but I mean, I can't say that red wasn't his color, and we are at that point. But in general, like I realize that like when you see Rory in person, like I don't know, like he's got a charisma about him. Like when he starts doing that little strut and he's hitting it well. I mean, that's the thing that was about Sunday. It wasn't like he hit it terribly. He was hitting everything to like 115 yards in the fairway, and he would just hit wedges to 30 feet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of nothing.
Is he? But this might be stupid. Is he just kind of fat and happy now? Is that what this is? There's no. Is he just kind of lost the desire? Nobody has desire. That's not the right word. But the whole chase the legacy thing. He's found the girl. He's got more money than God. Like, it feels like he has nothing to play for.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's it. I think what my bigger question is, like, for instance, if you were to get a statistician that would tell you, based on how he played and expectations, should he have won 4 majors before, what was he, 25?
Yeah.
So, you know, he catches a break. After Augusta, the first U.S. Open at Congressional is rain-soaked. And he blitzed the field, but, okay, typically U.S. Opens aren't played lift, clean, in place, if you will. And then he gets a very soft PGA Championship at the Ocean Course. Then he gets a soft British Open at Liverpool. And then he got a soft U.S. Open at Valhalla, or a PGA at Valhalla. Like, I wonder if, like for instance, my biggest question now is he an underachiever, or did maybe the breaks go his way early and he kind of overachieved? I mean, he's still people can say what they want. it's not like at the end of the day, he had a quote unquote bad year. He played 16 events, he won twice, and he had 9 top 10s. And he won the 5th biggest tournament of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the problem is like he had a disappointing major championship year. And
mostly because of bad rounds on weekends and Sundays.
Yeah. And then the British Open was, I've never seen him that nervous before a tee shot.
Yeah. Last thing, I know you got to go in a second. Memphis, it seemed to go really well overall with the WGC. Where did they get placed on next year's schedule, and is that a problem for them, or are they in good shape for year 2?
So it's going to replace I think it was the Rocket Mortgage. So it's going to be the 4th of July weekend, and I think it's a better weekend. That was usually the traditional weekend for the Irish Open. The European Tour announced yesterday they're moving the Irish Open to September. Now, the bigger question I have is there's this big cash grab pro-am thing that was usually like on the Monday and the Tuesday of the Irish Open, and like Tiger's committed to that. Like there's like McIlroy. I don't know.
That's the Japan thing that you and I were looking at.
Right.
Okay.
So they're no. This is like a pro-am thing, not the skins game or whatever. This is like a non-televised like cash grab for these guys. And it's always been the Monday and Tuesday of the Irish Open. And so the question is, are they moving that to now stay with the Irish Open, or is it still going to be that Monday and Tuesday? Because I find it hard to believe that those guys are going to go over to the UK, fly back to play a WGC, and then fly back again. I haven't figured whether or not that Pro-Am cash grab thing is going to move to September as well. If that does, then I think they'll get everything ironed out and the field will be pretty good.
Yeah. Appreciate it, buddy.
All right, guys.
Thanks to Jeffrey this morning for his time. The podcast also brought to you by G&M Pharmacy. They are right there on South Lamar in Oxford. They deliver local in the Oxford area to your home or workplace. They offer MedSync, which they fill your prescriptions the same day every single month. Make it easy on you. Make it one trip, and make sure you got all the medications you need when you need them. When you give them a call at 662-236-2222, you can transfer those medications over. They'll take care of the rest. You can also check out their CBD oil I've been telling you about for a long time. Is it an all-natural product that does help maintain overall health and regulate many conditions such as depression, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and more. And for the last few weeks, we've reminded you about sildenafil, their brand alternative for that condition if you so wish. Get you ready in about 15 minutes, and you can break those pills off into quarters, halves, or whatever you need, I guess, from a potency level. So again, 662-236-2222.
Podcast also brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX legacy realty agent. He's a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square, conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 standalone homes ranging in size from about 1,100 square feet to 2,400 square feet. You can check out the model home at 215 William Street. These homes have wonderful layouts, impeccable finishes, which you can inspect at the model. So get in touch with Harry, SavannahSquareOxford.com or 662-801-5621. Podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. They also offer their customers Kasasa. It's the absolute best cash checking account. And with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more about OUB, go to liveoxford.bankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. And we're brought to you by 7 South Tailgating. 7 South owned and operated by husband and wife duo Kyle and Jordan Thornton. They're both Ole Miss alums, Oxford locals. And what started as a way to pay for college has become the greatest tailgating service provider at Ole Miss. The team at 7 South are rebels through and through. They take pride in the Grove and the impact their service has on protecting, preserving, and enriching the Ole Miss game day tailgating tradition. Call them directly at 662-321-1037 1682 or visit 7southtailgating.com.
So, let's see. Jeffrey mentioned he just was kind of getting caught up a little bit about Alex Givens. Ole Miss also dealing with a little bit of another issue. Darius Thomas, the 3-star incoming freshman. He was a 5.6 Rivals-rated guy at Jonesboro, Arkansas. He has an unspecified heart condition that is keeping him out to some level for a little while. We'll obviously ask more about that today. But just another offensive line issue. I don't think that was going to be a day one deal anyway, but it is something to monitor. It's another body that hopefully is healthy. That's obviously job one when you have anything to deal with that type of situation. However, we'll monitor it from a football standpoint as we move forward, and that's with Matt Luke today at about 4 o'clock. So that's when you can start expecting a little bit of content to roll out. It will not be a complete vomit, though. You'll get stuff over the next few days. We do have to ration this a little bit with camp being a little closed off compared to 5-6 years ago, whatever it is you remember. But festivities starting at 3 p.m. today, and then Matt Luke around 4. So that's what you can expect from a rebelgrove.com standpoint.
Yeah, it's amazing how much it's changed from the nut era to the beginning of the freeze era. And this isn't just Ole Miss; this is everywhere. There was just almost unfettered access back then, and now it's quite fettered. But I get it. Like I've said all along, I don't have a problem with it. What I always hated, and Nut was bad about this, was you had unlimited access, and then you would report something, and then got mad that you reported it. Then don't let me see it if you don't want me to report it. So there's not going to be a ton of access for us, but there's enough. We're going to talk to a bunch of guys today. We'll bring that to you over the course of the next few days. And the next media opportunity where we actually talk to people after today is Monday, just so you can kind of be aware of it. At least that's the schedule for now. And, as it pertains to the offensive line, Darius Thomas, I don't think he was going to play a lot right away. I don't know that he was going to play this season. So, he might be staring at the red shirt that he was already going to stare at. But it's, if he doesn't go through camp, any chance, and you said it right, first things first is making sure he's healthy as a person. From a football standpoint, if he doesn't go through camp, realistically, he's not ready to play as a freshman. And so you do lose another potential guy at a position that is just really thin.
They just got to get really lucky this camp. I mean, we said it over and over again, and we'll continue to say it 1,000 more times, but that's what it comes down to. They cannot have an unlucky camp.
No, they can't have.
And there's no way to control that. It just is what it is.
It is luck. Yeah, you can be smart. You can be smart. You can say, hey, we're going to have scrimmages. We're going to tackle in scrimmages. Put in practice. We're going to be smart. And that doesn't mean that you're soft. It doesn't mean that you're not tough. It just means you're being smart. NFL camps do it. And I know those are NFL players. They're more polished players. There's less development. I get it. You just got to monitor things. And they do. They do a great job of it at Ole Miss and at a lot of places. But Ole Miss can't afford an unlucky camp, not with the start of the season, the way that it is, as important as it is. I talked to someone yesterday in town who was basically saying, are you excited about football season? And I'm like, yeah, it's football season, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And he goes, what do you think the fan excitement's going to be? And I was like, I don't know. I think people are just kind of wait and see. And he was like, well, as soon as we beat Memphis. And I was like, yeah, I think if you beat Memphis, there's an excitement level for that next week. And if you don't beat Memphis, it's almost a dread level for that next week. And that's a lot. It's a lot riding on those first couple of games. It's just no way around. There's no way around it. I've tried to rationalize a couple of times, trying to say, well, those 2 games, you're okay, whatever. And I think that scenario plays out if you're 1-1. If you're 2-0, there's going to be unbridled optimism. There's going to be nothing to stop it for a little while.
Because you're 3-0.
Yeah, because you're 3-0. And then you're playing this huge game against Cal, and lots of kids are coming in as prospects, and Cal's losable, but Cal's winnable. and everybody's excited and all that stuff. Boy, you drop those first two and you play that 3:00 game against Southeastern Louisiana in 94-degree heat, and people don't go, and there's nobody there. Yuck. Hard to get people geeked up for that. And there's just is what it is. It's not a particularly fair assessment, but it's true.
What do you expect Matt's tone to be today?
It's a good question because I haven't talked to him really at all since media days. Optimistic. I think he's put his stamp on the program. He's got his guys, got his staff, doing his stuff. I think he's a little more confident with. I'll be honest. I think all of the memes of him staring up at the scoreboard. I said this before. I know everybody loved to make fun of that, and it did have a distant look to his face, but I think a lot of that was, I can't do anything about what's going on the field right now. This is my doing. Yes, I probably made a mistake with the coordinator thing. I did it for the right reasons. It's probably a decision I would make again. I'm going to fix it, but I can't fix it until this season's over with, and it probably can't tick away fast enough. That's probably really what I think he was probably thinking. And I think now it's kind of a different thing. He's eager to get going. I think he's probably pretty excited to get started. He'll use that word today a lot, and I think it's genuine. Every coach around the country is going to say, I'm excited to get started, and they're not all excited to get started. He's excited to get started, but he knows there's a lot of question marks. I think we're going to hear that they're young, and they are. And people are going to ask him about the importance of getting off to a good start, and he's going to say it's important, but he's going to kind of downplay that because that's the smart thing to do. You can't say, yeah, man, I tell you what, if we start 2-0, hey, Katie bar the door, but if we start 0-2, this bitch is a disaster, right? He can't say that. So because you can't say that to your team. If you lose the first two, you say to your team, hey, let's win this one coming up, and then let's beat Cal, and then we'll see if we can't slog our way, keep getting better and improving, and beat Vanderbilt, and you're 3-3 at the break, and you still got New Mexico State. Maybe you can steal one somewhere, and that's you got to keep fighting. You can't just throw in the towel at 0-2. So he's got to be careful about putting too much pressure on his team right out of the gate. That being said, the kids know it. There's a lot of pressure on this team right out of the gate.
Just seeing this. See, Godfrey has a new gig.
I did. I saw that. Banner Society.
I've never heard of it.
I had never heard of it either. He says, we'll write things, we'll record things, we'll do stuff with Twitch and whatever else we think of or y'all ask for. Some of it will be dumb, and some of it will be big J journalism. My only goal is that not a damn bit of it makes the NCAA or Southeastern Conference happy.
Yeah. Don't know, but sure.
Yeah.
Looks like they've got a couple people headed that way because then he says down here that where is it? Says if you're a fan of Shutdown Fullcast, another really popular podcast, says they're here or there as well. So multiple people headed over to Banner Society, whatever that may be.
Yeah, well, good for Stephen.
Oh,
He's very talented. Yeah.
Some shakeups going up a little bit because it looks like he's still employed there, but like Spencer Hall, I saw stopped his site, EDSBS, yesterday and talked about that. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but there does appear to be in a positive, well, not a positive way, because losing these guys is not a positive for SB Nation, but in some way there does appear to be a retooling over there. I don't know what it looks like, but yeah.
I'm just happy to have a gig.
Just happy to have a gig?
I'm happy to have a gig, and every day I feel better and better about our decision to expand our podcast network.
Oh, and never mind, sorry. Banner Society is a part of SB Nation. So I apologize to SB Nation. Yeah. Today we're excited to announce that national college football coverage at Vox Media has a new home, Banner Society. Banner Society is an ongoing experiment with two goals. The first is to keep expanding, warping, and sharpening the conversation around college football and its bizarre, corrupt, colorful elements. The second is to find new and different ways to connect with audiences directly all over the internet. And as of right now, you can find them via a newsletter. It appears, and then they've got some podcast kind of embed stuff. So, yes. The Banner Society team is Alex Kirshner, Brian Floyd, Bud Elliott, Holly Anderson, Jason Kirk, Richard Johnson, Ryan Nani, Spencer Hall, and Stephen Godfrey.
Oh, interesting.
So there you go. An update on Stephen Godfrey for you. What great topics do we get on GPITS this week, Mr. McCready?
Well, we talk about a lot of different things. We talk about Jay's drunken trip to Epcot.
You could have just said trip to Epcot, and I would have assumed the rest.
That's true. We talk about Jay's once infatuation with a nun.
Ooh.
Yeah. Jay scolded me and you for not going to the media event last night. Said that we're being antisocial.
I was not being antisocial. I had something else going on.
I know you did.
I was taping a podcast.
And I kind of had stuff going on too. Just didn't work into my schedule.
I was also being responsible at that point.
You were. And I kind of was too.
Okay.
He got on to me about what he says is my obsessive diet and exercise behavior, and was critical of it, and said that I'm putting pressure on my wife by doing it, which is absolutely false. And really led to me thinking to myself, that's a really sexist thing for Jay to say.
Did you tell him that?
No, I didn't. I didn't want to hurt his feelings.
Well, it's going to get back to him now. You just said it on this podcast.
It's just, and it's not sexist. It's just kind of chauvinistic, sort of. Right? If a woman says, I'm going to get healthy, does that put pressure on the husband?
Not typically.
That's my point. What else did we talk about? We talked about Tommy Tuberville's what appears to be successful run for the U.S. Senate.
Whoa, successful?
I think he's going to win.
He's going to win?
I think, look, if he wins the Republican nomination, he wins.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I mean...
All right.
You think Mississippi's conservative. Let me tell you something.
You like the R chances, is what you're saying.
The R is going to win. I mean, I'm just going to flat tell you, Donald Trump's winning Alabama in 2020. Period.
So who is he rooting? Who is he running against?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But apparently he is in the polls beginning to pull away.
Okay.
So we talked about that. And then we talked about their beat. The Auburn beat. The beat was getting together last night. They had already had dinner at Malzahn's house, but they were getting together as a beat together voluntarily to hang out with one another. And I said our beat would never do that. Their beat tolerates each other better than our beat tolerates each other.
I've become one of the more old men on our beat. It's gotten so young.
Yeah.
And it's just everywhere. It is what it is.
We just all sit in our little separate places, and we sit around and wait separately but together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sitting around and waiting on beats.
You have a lot of time together.
You get a lot of time together, and yeah.
And there's a lot of elements to this, and nobody cares, so I'm not even going to belabor it. It used to be kind of fun in a way. It's not,
yeah.
In a weird way, it used to be kind of fun. You'd have David Brandt and Scott Cacciola and people telling stories and laughing and whatever.
Kyle C and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's now God, do not forget your headphones.
I typically just try to go find Brian and talk golf or something for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I get on with the day. Anyway.
Yep.
It's starting back today, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Here we are, football season, August camp. I did see Pete Scantleberry, that's now writing again at Power Mizzou. He did make a good point. Why do we call it fall camp? The whole dang thing happens in August. It's going to be 109 degrees the entire month.
And it won't be one. Camp will begin and end in what
August.
is technically summer. Yes, in August.
Why do we call it fall camp?
Beats the hell out of me. Everybody does it, and I don't. It's technically completely incorrect.
I call fall baseball is called fall ball. Yes, it starts late September and runs through early November. I'll allow
In what? So it's the fall. Yeah.
Football camp is the entire month of August.
Yeah.
Hot as blazes.
Yeah, spring football is in the spring, but why don't we call it summer camp?
August camp. It's August camp.
Summer. Yeah. I don't know.
I get not calling it summer because you got all those, hey, I'm using air quotes, voluntary workouts. But
call it preseason camp.
That's fine too.
The NFL calls it preseason.
They do.
Right? Or training camp. Training. That's fine too. But fall camp, it's not fall. There's not one thing outside that feels like fall right now. Nothing.
Just a little soapbox. That's it. But all right, we'll recap today, whatever happens today on tomorrow's show. Again, we'll I don't know, we'll talk about something else. Might get some questions. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But thanks to Jeffrey for his time, and we'll talk to you then.